On February 28, 2026, the Middle East exploded into open war. Missiles struck inside Iran. Israel and the United States launched coordinated attacks. Iran retaliated across the region. Oil routes trembled, global markets shook, and the world held its breath. How did decades of tension ignite in a single night, and what could this conflict mean for the future of global power? On February 28, 2026, the long shadow of rivalry between Israel, Iran, and the United States erupted into open warfare. In the early hours before dawn, coordinated air and missile strikes hit targets deep inside Iranian territory. Explosions were reported near military facilities and strategic installations. Within hours, governments around the world confirmed what many had feared for years. A direct military confrontation had begun. The conflict was not a sudden accident. It was the culmination of decades of distrust, proxy struggles, sanctions, covert operations, and escalating rhetoric. But when missiles fly, history compresses into seconds. And in those first seconds, the region shifted from tension to war. To understand this war, we must step back. Since the 1979 Iranian Revolution, relations between Iran and the United States have been defined by hostility. Diplomatic ties were severed. Sanctions became routine. Mutual suspicion hardened into strategic doctrine. For Israel, Iran's regional influence and support for armed groups hostile to Israeli interests represented a long-term security concern. Over the years, disputes over Iran's nuclear program intensified. International negotiations, agreements, withdrawals, and renewed sanctions formed a cycle that never fully resolved the core mistrust. Each side accused the other of aggression. Each claimed defensive necessity. And across the Middle East, smaller conflicts became arenas for larger power competition. Central to the tension was Iran's nuclear program. Tehran maintained that its program was for peaceful energy purposes. Critics, including the United States and Israel, argued that enrichment capabilities could shorten the path to a nuclear weapon if political decisions changed. Diplomatic efforts sought to limit enrichment levels, increase inspections, and reduce stockpiles. Some agreements temporarily slowed tensions, but disagreements over compliance and enforcement persisted. Over time, sanctions tightened. Economic pressure increased. Military planners quietly prepared contingency scenarios. By 2026, concerns over regional missile development and uranium enrichment once again dominated security discussions. The strike that began the war was presented by Washington and Jerusalem as a preventive action designed to eliminate strategic threats before they matured further when the coordinated strikes were launched. They targeted military infrastructure, missile facilities, and command centers. Advanced aircraft and precision-guided munitions were reportedly used to limit collateral damage while maximizing impact on strategic assets. Iranian air defenses responded. State media acknowledged damage in multiple regions. Within hours, Tehran announced that retaliation would be swift and decisive. The conflict did not remain contained within borders. Missile systems were activated. Drones were deployed. What began as targeted strikes evolved into a regional exchange. The language of deterrence gave way to the language of survival. Iran's response included missile launches toward Israeli territory and threats directed at U.S. military installations in the Gulf. Regional air defense systems intercepted many projectiles, but some strikes landed, causing casualties and damage. The conflict expanded into neighboring theaters. Armed groups aligned with Iran increased activity along Israel's northern frontier. Military alerts echoed across capitals from Tel Aviv to Washington. The scale of retaliation demonstrated that this was no symbolic exchange. It was a calculated escalation intended to show capacity and resolve. Each side framed its actions as defensive. Each accused the other of initiating aggression. And with every exchange, the risk of wider war increased. One of the most consequential dimensions of the conflict unfolded at sea. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most critical maritime choke points in the world. A significant portion of global oil and liquefied natural gas passes through its narrow waters. As tensions escalated, warnings were issued about maritime security. Commercial vessels reconsidered transit routes. Insurance costs surged. Energy markets reacted immediately. Even limited disruption in this corridor has global implications affecting fuel prices, supply chains, and economic stability. In modern warfare, geography can become as powerful as weaponry. The Strait of Hormuz transformed the regional conflict into a global economic concern. Behind strategic maps and geopolitical analysis lies a simpler truth: war affects people first. Civilians in affected regions endured air raid sirens, damaged infrastructure, and uncertainty about what tomorrow might bring. Airports experienced disruptions. Schools closed. Hospitals prepared for casualties. Families monitored news updates through the night. In conflict zones, even precision strikes carry risk. Humanitarian organizations called for restraint and protection of non-combatants. The laws of armed conflict demand distinction and proportionality, yet in fast-moving military operations, fear spreads quickly among civilian populations. The psychological toll of modern warfare extends far beyond physical damage. International reaction was swift. Emergency diplomatic meetings were convened. Governments urged escalation and ceasefire negotiations. Some leaders expressed support for actions they viewed as preventive self-defense. Others warned that military escalation would deepen instability. Major powers outside the region emphasized the need to prevent spillover into broader confrontation. Energy importing nations closely monitored oil flows. Financial markets reflected uncertainty. The war was no longer confined to the Middle East. It became a test of how interconnected the global system truly is. In an era of instant communication and integrated markets, regional conflict can generate worldwide consequences within hours. This conflict illustrates the character of 21st century warfare. Precision-guided munitions, missile defense systems, and manned aerial vehicles and cyber capabilities define the battle space. Information warfare shapes public perception. Satellite imagery circulates within minutes. Governments communicate directly to global audiences through digital platforms. Unlike the mass mobilizations of the 20th century, modern confrontations can escalate rapidly without formal declarations. Strategic objectives focus on infrastructure, deterrence, and signaling rather than territorial conquest. Yet, despite technological sophistication, the underlying dynamics remain ancient: fear, rivalry, power, and survival. As the conflict unfolded, the world asked the same question: what happens next? History teaches that wars can end through negotiation, exhaustion, external mediation, or further escalation. Diplomatic backchannels often operate even during active fighting. The challenge lies in restoring trust once open hostilities begin. The 2026 confrontation between Israel, Iran, and the United States may ultimately be remembered not only for the strikes that began it, but for how leaders chose to manage its aftermath. Whether through ceasefire agreements, renewed diplomatic frameworks, or prolonged deterrence, the decisions made in these months will shape regional stability for years to come. The story of this war is still being written. It reflects decades of unresolved disputes and the fragile balance of power in one of the world's most strategically vital regions. It demonstrates how quickly tension can transform into conflict and how deeply interconnected the modern world has become. When missiles are launched in one region, economies and households thousands of miles away can feel the impact. If you found this documentary informative and balanced, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who want clear, factual analysis of global events. Your support helps us continue producing in-depth documentaries that explain the forces shaping our world.